On this podcast, we're going to be talking about a sensitive subject about sex trafficking. You might want to not have your children in the room when we talk about this. Hi, my name is Patrick Klein.
Jana Beeson. We're Bible smugglers.
Today's episode, we're going to talk about hope in the red light district. So, Jana, you were just on a trip recently to, where did you go?
I went to Mumbai, India.
Okay. It used to be called Bombay, but now it's Mumbai.
It's Mumbai.
And what did you do there?
We had the opportunity to go into the red light district in Mumbai, actually the largest red light district in Mumbai, and minister to girls in the sex trafficking world.
Okay, so I've heard that there's 70,000 women and children in Mumbai in the red light area, and I heard 70% of the people have AIDS.
I would believe that. When we were there, we were told most of the women that we run across are going to be definitely HIV or AIDS and advanced stages of other type of STDs.
Okay, so first of all, if you came into the red light, and let's say you had a hazmat suit on with big gloves.
We did not.
Big gloves, and because you're talking a lot of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, and also you have AIDS. There's a lot of AIDS there. The place is filthy dirty.
Very filthy dirty.
Okay, and a lot of idolatry. So there's a lot of darkness and oppression there. But what do you think? How do you think the girls would respond if you came in with hazmat suits on and masks and gloves and everything else that you're afraid to touch them?
Well, they would feel very unloved, for one. And that's part of ministering to them is human touch. Mm-hmm. And it's like Jesus. He was a servant of all. He went to the lowest place.
And he wasn't afraid of the lepers.
No.
And so we as Christians should not be afraid.
Absolutely not.
Of all the diseases in the world. I mean, if you came in with a hazmat suit on and you're going to try to minister to these girls, they already feel like they're the scum of the earth because of what's happened to them.
Mm-hmm. The shame on them is already so strong. And I think it means something when you're willing to go in there and, just act normal and love on them as though they're your brother or sister or best friend. I wouldn't go if I felt that way. I wouldn't recommend this place for somebody who's a germaphobe. It is very, very filthy. I did not realize that a place like that even existed. I know you told me my brother's a pilot who flies into Mumbai all the time, and he told me how filthy it is. But until I went, there's no way to describe it.
Yeah, it's hard to describe to anybody in America. I believe it's the love of Jesus that compels us to go there.
Absolutely.
It's not a place that you would want to go. Let's say,
No, I wouldn't call it a vacation.
No.
Destination. Although for me it is, because I love I love the opportunity of having just the chance of maybe reaching somebody for the Lord and bringing that kind of hope into a place like that.
And you realize that it is a place of very much darkness and depression and despair, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's no from my vantage point of what I saw and what I learned and the stories I heard, the hope is it's non-existent. It's a life never with no hope.
Mm-hmm. We made a video years ago about this trafficking and about Mumbai, and they actually got a guy on a GoPro, and he says, "You come to our place, we have clean girls. We have clean girls, any age. We can get you any age girls." And it's kind of a free for all, is what it is. It's like a lawless place, but yet there is law and order, because if the girls step out of line,
oh yeah, we met the clean ones. We
And
met the ones that had just gotten there, the young and pretty ones that are probably considered the clean ones because they're still young and pretty.
Mhm.
They still carried themselves well. They still they didn't look sick. They weren't allowed outside of their little abode,
Mhm.
if you want to call it that. It's where they live and work. They weren't allowed outside, but we went inside to their homes
Mhm.
and we met those ones.
And their homes are pretty terrible, aren't they?
They're disgusting. They're like years and years of bodily fluids.
Mm.
And of course, the custom is to take your shoes off and walk in there and act as though you were just invited into your, a beautiful home for a bite to eat. I mean, you sit where they sit, you touch them, you walk on their floor. And like I said, it's not a place for somebody who's afraid of germs. I definitely would not recommend that. But I believe in the power of the Lord to shield me from anything like that. So
We had a lady that worked with us years ago, and she had to quit because her parents said it's getting too dangerous out in the world. There was, I forget it, I think it was like West Nile virus or something like that. And then also ISIS was active. And so the parents said, we don't want you involved with the ministry anymore. You need to stay in America where it's safe. And I thought the Great Commission has not been negated just because there's diseases in the world and it's war-torn areas and everything else. I mean, that's where we can shine the light the brightest in places where it's really dark.
I mean, just having the opportunity to love on somebody like that, like human touch and just long hugs and getting them to get rid of enough shame to even look you in the eye, to share the love of Christ. And I mean, I don't know what that does for somebody, but I believe that's the right thing to do. I believe that's what we should do. And in the process, we're able to share Jesus and they get saved. And like this is about Bible smuggling, our program. We took in MP3 Bibles because these women, they pretty much grow up in this environment, so they don't read or write. And so we took in MP3 Bibles, and there's nothing better than knowing that you're invading a darkness like that with the love of Christ and leaving it behind. He is the Word. And we left the Word with them. And so
I heard that the women in the red light have to have 20 customers in a day or they don't eat that day.
I believe it.
And so we had a lady came on the trip one time, and she was abused in high school. She'd been raped. And she came in and she saw these women in the brothel, and she just started crying. She said, I can't imagine being raped 20 times a day, every day for the rest of your life. And you can understand why they'd want to take their lives.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because there's no hope in that. It's such a mess. And, they have been taught you have to stay within the confines of this few block radius. If you step out of it, we'll beat you to death. So they're living in fear. They can't get out. And I think this is different than prostitution, because to me, prostitution is somebody chooses to be a prostitute to sell their body in exchange for money or goods or whatever.
No. These people are sold into this, usually by their quote unquote husbands. They get married and are promised whatever he promises them, and then he brings them here to these brothels to work, and then she is immediately in debt, and somebody else holds her papers. So it's not like she can just get up in the middle of the night and run out of there. Somebody holds her papers. And as she's living her life in this absolute hellhole, her debt just keeps going up for room and board. So I believe that's how much they would have to turn. In fact, we ran into a lady who fell in love with her little MP3 Bible, but her story was this. So she was so we were introduced to her. We were with a doctor, by the way, and we went into the brothel, into this little space where 6 women lived and worked. And one of these ladies, she was asked how old she was, and she said she was 40 years old. And then everybody started laughing. Well, it turns out she was actually 60. And her issue was she was so afraid she wasn't turning enough tricks a day to pay for her stay there. And it was just so hopeless, and just like, and they were taking care of her and covering her. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, like, praise the Lord, you don't have to do this anymore. Because the guys pick who they want.
Right.
And she was older, run down.
It's interesting. In America, we put so much emphasis on beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And in India, when you're in the red light area, the more beautiful you are,
the more
you're going to be used.
Absolutely.
So it's like they don't want to be beautiful because the men, and what they do is...
They kind of do, though, because that's how they get...
Yeah, they get paid.
I mean, it's also very twisted.
Yes. So what I've seen in the ones I've been into, the red lights, the brothels, is there's like a sectional couch, and the girls are sitting on the couch, and the men walk through and they look at the girls and kind of window shop to see which girl they want to use. Then they go over, they pay the bouncer for what they want the girl to do to them. And then the girl is told, okay, you have to go in this room and do this. And she cannot protest. She has to do it.
No, of course not.
And, a lot of them, there's no, not using condoms to protect. There's nothing. It's just like they're susceptible to any disease a man's carrying. And it's horrible. And to think that this stuff is going on in our world today. I mean, it's 2025. It's like,
I know. Well, and they don't treat the disease over there the same way as we do over here either. For example, let's just take HIV. Like in America now, HIV is like, it's with the medicines we have now and how far that's gone, people can live the rest of their life with HIV. There, they don't treat it the same. So it's a death wish for sure. And most people, like you said, we met were HIV positive, and we one lady I remember so specifically, she was advanced stage syphilis, and she had these sores all around her midsection, and she of course pulled her shirt up because we had a doctor with us who was trying to help treat people as best she could. And so, but yeah, I never saw a sectional couch, but what I did see was they would sit outside of their little abodes because the brothel was not like a building. It was like a huge neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were other things going on inside the brothels, businesses of whatever type. And
it's kind of a weird setting.
It's very weird.
They have these women standing out on the streets.
Right.
And sometimes they'll have a baby. They're holding a baby in their arms, and the guy wants to use the woman holding the baby, and so she'll hand the baby to another woman in the brothel to watch the baby while she goes and takes care of this man. And it's just, I mean, what I would see at night is thousands of men just walking around the streets. Many of them were high or drunk. They're going with their buddies to go use the girls. And I don't even know how many of them actually realize that they're a sex slave. I don't know. But it seems like the lost is all.
I don't think they care, do you?
I don't think they do. And even knowing the police know what's going on, politicians are involved, business owners. I mean, it's horrible. And, in America, you have some semblance. If a girl is trafficked, then she can get help. She can get out. But in India, it's very, very difficult to get these girls out. It's very dangerous because they bring a lot of money to these guys. And I know in one area, it was even the brothel owner was a woman.
Yeah, we ran into one of those. She was a Christian.
Wow.
She was a Christian and I think they called her a madam.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked for the pimp. But she was in the same slavery setup system as the rest of them were. She just ran that little group of people.
We knew one girl in another city in India, but she was in the red light, and she was really happy because Grandpa was sending her off to university. She was really excited because she thought that her grandfather loved her and was sending her off to university. What she didn't know, because her grandmother was running a brothel, that the plan was once she got really educated, the father could sell her as a high-priced escort in the 5-star hotels. Because some of these businessmen and wealthy men want to have conversations with the girl before they use them. Or they'll take them to a nice dinner and then, have a good conversation with them and then take them back to their room and use them. And those women bring in a lot more money than just a girl in the brothel.
Mm-hmm.
Which I heard once a woman in the brothel turns 50, she's now worth half of what she was before.
Yeah. That it just goes down and down and down, but they don't stop working them. That's what's, we the setup that we did, we worked with a ministry that actually has a little, I guess I want to call it not a safe house because they didn't live out of the space. It was more like a church kind of, because they did, and they had sewing machines in there. They were teaching them how to do something other than the sex. And they rescue a couple of girls a month. And that's the ministry we were working with while we were in there. The ministry we were working with is fantastic. How he got involved with it was his mom got sold in. So he's from Nepal. His mom got sold in to Mumbai's sex trafficking underworld. And when he was old enough, he was a Christian, is a Christian, and when he was old enough, he got a job working within that brothel area. And his whole life goal was to find his mother. And he never found her. But in the process, he started rescuing people out of this system.
I've heard a lot of good things about him, that he's rescued a lot of women and a lot of children out. We would go to Nepal and see a ministry there that we work with, and he had rescued a lot of those women and children out. And you were talking about how a lot of these women are sold. We met one lady, and the guy came to the village. He's a good-looking guy, and he kind of gets decided on one of the girls. And then he kind of woos her, and she falls in love with her.
Marries her, quote unquote.
Yep. And 18 days after they got married, he took her down to India and sold her in a brothel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they all refer to them as their husband, which it just, we actually prayed for this one girl, beautiful girl, beautiful. And she was wanting to have a baby. And we were praying for her and all this kind of stuff. Well, after she left, we learned her story. And her story was her husband had brought her to the brothel, sold her in, and they really want them to have babies because that kind of glues them to the brothel. And she was wanting to have a baby and was having a hard time getting pregnant. And the whole thing is just so incredibly twisted and demonic and horrific. And just to think that human beings can be treated this way is, and I know this happens in our country day and night, probably in every community. It's just the demonic presence in that country.
I know, like in Kathmandu, Nepal, I went there for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden I go there one time, and there's all these dance bars and massage parlors. And it was a front for sex trafficking. The girl would go to the city because she wanted to find a job. She'd get a job maybe working in a motel or in a restaurant. And then the guys say, well, after work, I need you to service these clients, whatever. And then she'd be sold into trafficking, and she can't get out. And so when you saw these dance bars coming up, you see these massage parlors, it's like all of a sudden trafficking just became this huge thing. It exploded. Because I think, first of all, in India, there's a lot of girls that have AIDS. And men don't want the risk of AIDS. They want to use the young, fresh girls, the clean girls,
Mm-hmm.
they call it. And so, but then what they did in Kathmandu is then they set up free abortion clinics. So these women that didn't want the baby could go and have their baby aborted, and then they'd turn around and go right back. They'd be put right back into trafficking.
So is it they didn't want them, or that they were asked not to keep them so they could keep working?
I'm not sure, but I just thought, isn't that the way the world is? Okay, we're going to offer you a solution. We'll get rid of your baby, but then we're going to send you right back in there to be used again. And I thought, where are all the feminists? Where are all the Me Too movement people?
Oh, yeah, they're not there. I can tell you that.
No, they're not. They don't care. It's all about them.
Right.
It's all about them. You don't see them stand up for trafficked victims. You don't see them speaking out and saying this trafficking needs to be stopped. It's all about me, and I was abused and everything else, and forget about everybody else. And
people are so far removed from reality. Like when I got back from India, I went about a little over a month ago. When I got back, I had posted something on my social media, Facebook, and one of these Me Too people piped up and said, "Hopefully you took in birth control." And my answer to her was the very fact that you even said that tells me you know nothing about what's going on in there. That's the last of their problems in there. Like, this is...
I think people are just, they can't go there because it's such an evil thing.
It's so evil.
And, some woman that, supposedly was abused so she get a part in a movie or whatever, and now she's a famous actress and everything else, and now she's saying she was abused. Well, first of all, why did she go to a hotel with a man to meet him and then go up to his room alone with him?
Right.
I mean, but they don't understand. These girls are taken, some of them 6, 7 years old, some even 5.
I don't think any of those women that we ran across were in there by choice. I think at some point they were sold in there. And, and when I got back, I was listening to a podcast, and it was basically with Pornhub. If you're watching Pornhub, you're either watching a crime take place or you're funding a crime taking place.
Wow.
And that really made a lot of sense to me after being in a place like that. It is so very true.
Well, you think of all those girls and how many of them are being raped, and it's sold as porn, but really it's you're destroying some girl's life.
Right.
Or some boy's life, or,
right.
100%. How many of those people really are in agreement with what they're doing? They're being used, and then that's being sold over and over again. I heard years ago that there's 200,000 women that have been sold from North Korea into China. 100,000 are trapped. They're being used as, they're married off to mentally handicapped or men that are physically handicapped, or old men. And they're trapped as brides.
Wow.
But 100,000 are trapped in rooms and used for online pornography.
I believe it.
So the pornography industry is helping fund the sex trafficking, and it's just constantly getting fresher, new ones and younger, and it's just defiling people. Has no regard for human life. They don't care if those kids die of AIDS or whatever after they've used them and abused them. And especially if you're watching like porn where they're raping, that's really happening. That's
really happening.
That's not staged. That is really happening.
That's really happening.
And you think about those young girls. Those girls, their innocence is being stolen from them. And you think about these little kids. I mean, it's like...
Oh, it happens when they're very young.
And this is all over the world now. And, I know in parts of India, my friend told us that works in the red light, rescuing girls out. She said that you're using girls as young as 5 years old. And I just thought, how do people justify that in their mind? That a 5-year-old little girl, a little girl is not thinking about that. She's thinking about playing with her dollies.
Yeah, well.
And it's like you're stealing from her. And what I've seen is when these girls are taken at a young age, their bodies physically grow, but emotionally and relationally, they don't grow. They're still stunted at that age. when they're used.
So we ran across one girl while we were in Mumbai. She had been rescued out. So like everybody else, her mother got sold in by the husband, which also was her dad. And when she was 9 years old, by the way, beautiful girl, a gorgeous girl, smart. When she was 9 years old, her dad, the guy who sold the mom in, raped her so horrifically. To keep her quiet, he used an object. I'm not sure what the object was, but it was large, to shove into her mouth while he was raping her. And it was hitting her over and over again so bad that, first of all, when she went for medical help, it was, they were never able to fix it all the way. Now she's like, I think she's 17 or 18. She has a big, like, I would say like a softball thing on the side of her face, like just probably swollen tissue that never healed. But here's the thing with her. They're trying to get her going into a different vocation, of course. And so she has taken all kinds of accreditation classes of different vocations, and she's aced them all with flying colors, like super smart girl. But here's the problem. When she gets into the workplace, she is that 9-year-old girl who was horrifically raped and has deep-seated soul issues because of it and cannot hold down any kind of work. So she keeps coming back to the safe house and working on the sewing machines because I'm this beautiful girl. I mean, on the outside appearance, yeah, she looks like she's got something wrong with one side of her face a little bit, but that doesn't take away from her beauty. Talking to her, she's as normal as she can be. But when she gets into any kind of situation that probably pushes some button, she has a complete meltdown back to that 9-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm. And too, it's really hard for girls that have been used like that to ever find a man that would want to marry them because they're considered damaged goods. And a lot of times men won't take their wives back because they feel like she's been used. If a guy finds out that a girl has been sold in the trafficking and wants to marry her later on, a good man would want her.
And think about what you're saying, that in that culture.
Yes.
In this culture, that'd be like, good riddance, I don't want to be married. But in that culture, it's important to be married.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So my friend, she actually knew a lady and they became good friends. And what happened was the single girl said to the married lady, I want to take you to Calcutta. I want you to meet my boyfriend. So they went to meet this guy. They went by train, took him like 24 hours. And then he said, you have to come out to this village. So they went out to the village and she was having a cup of tea with this guy and this gal. And she wakes up 3 days later and the other side of the country had been sold into a brothel. And so my lady I know works in the red light to rescue girls out. She found out this lady's story and she said, here's my husband's phone number. You can call him and verify my story. So she calls the man later on, not there, but calls him and he said, that's my wife. I love my wife. Can you get her back for me? Now that's not common. Most men would say, okay, she's damaged goods. I don't want her back.
Well, that's one reason they don't get out of there is because rescuing them's one thing, but then where do they go? A lot of their families have turned on them.
Yeah. Because they've been told that they ran away to this lifestyle. Probably. They don't know the true story. And that's where I think it's like people need to know the real story, that this is not a prostitute. This is a sex slave. They were taken against their will. They cannot leave anytime they want to leave. They're stuck there. And until somebody rescues them.
And a place for them to go where they can get restored, set free. And, with Vision Beyond Borders going over there, the one thing I can say is I know when we left those MP3 players with the Word of God, I know we left hope there. I know we invaded the darkness with Jesus, and you go for such a short time, you don't have time to do all this teaching and all this. But what we do have is we know we got the Holy Spirit who is going to meet them where they're at, and he's going to teach them who he is. And
yep. Well, I think we've run out of time, but
Okay.
We're going to come back and we're going to visit this subject again. Thank you, Jana, for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for listening to Confessions of a Bible Smuggler and our story about hope in the red light district.